Caching in Next.js is a bit convoluted. A lot of caching layers, each of them configured in a different way, and it's confusing what's cached by default. Soon we'll be able to forget about all this, as all these will be deprecated and replaced with a new caching mode called dynamic I/O, built on just two concepts: suspense and use cache. Well, there's also cache life, cache tag, and revalidate tag. We'll get to all of them. Let's kick off with a blog app example using regular Next.js without the new caching mode. It's a simple page where we read the posts from a JSON file, which is a poor man's database, introduce a bit of a DLA to simulate network latency, and then we iterate over the posts array to render the actual blog posts. By default, the whole page is cached as it's not using any dynamic APIs such as cookies, headers, or search params. But this is rather implicit and has been causing a lot of confusion and headaches. Although you now get a little icon in the bottom left corner indicating that the route is static. And if we use a production build, we can verify that by creating a new post, which under the hood uses a server action that takes the title and the body from the form and saves it to our JSON quote-unquote database. And no matter how hard we press the browser refresh button, we still get the old stale content. And by the way, our JSON database did actually receive the new post. We could opt out of the caching by adding dynamic false dynamic, which is one of many ways to control caching. Or we could solve it by calling revalidate path, or by wrapping the function that gets the post in unstable cache, which is already considered a legacy API, tagging it, and revalidating the tag in the server action. And maybe there are more options that I haven't thought of. It's a lot, and all these will be deprecated in favor of the new dynamic I/O mode, which drastically simplifies this, and which we'll get to now. So let's forget about all the different caching controls and remove them. And in the next config, we set dynamic I/O to true. We also have to make sure to be on Next Canary, at least at the time of recording this video. And when we reload the page, we get an error. But this error is a good error, a helpful one. It's saying that we tried to access data, but we didn't specify a suspense boundary or a use cache above it. And it's also honest about the fact that they don't have the exact line number that the error happened on. What's really happening is that Next.js is forcing us to make a decision if we want to cache the data we access or not. If not, we have to wrap the thing that's accessing the data, in our case the whole page, in the suspense component, so that there is at least some fallback loader or skeleton that can be shown instantly. If we now reload the page, we can see the loader, and after 3 seconds, when the data loads, we see the actual blog posts. Obviously, we want to optimize the heck out of our blog for the high traffic that we expect that our one yearly blog post will bring. So we want to cache our page, and we can use the use cache directive for that. We can put use cache at the top of a page, a function, or a component to instruct Next.js to cache it. In our case, since we only have a single function and a single component, it doesn't matter, so let's put it at the start of the fetch post function. Caching is all well and good, but at some point we might want to add a new blog post, and we'll want our users to be able to read it. So we'll need a cache to be invalidated, as right now we get stale content. By default, Next.js uses a time-based cache which can be configured using the cache life function. The default setting of this cache is a 15-minute revalidation frequency and indefinite expiration. This can be a bit hard to wrap your head around, but what it means is when the page with the blog posts gets rendered, there are 2 options. If it's been less than 15 minutes since the last revalidation, we'll get the cached content, and that's it. If it's been more than 15 minutes since the last revalidation, whether it's 15 minutes and 1 second or whether it's 1 year, we'll still get the cached content, but it will be marked as stale, and in Next.js will refresh the content in the background and populate the cache so that subsequent requests will get the fresh content. If we want to configure the revalidation and expiration periods for our cache, we can do that using cache life inside of a function or a component. Cache life accepts arguments like seconds, minutes, or hours, which are presets for exact values of revalidation and expiration, or you can configure the exact values themselves. Or there's an option to tag the cache using the cache tag function to tag wherever we get the data from and then revalidate that tag programmatically, in our case after creating a new post using revalidate tag. This effectively purges the cached items associated with that tag. For us, that's the output of the fetch post function. And this is similar to how tags work with fetch cache or the unstable cache function from earlier. Let's put it to a test. First, we'll create a new build to mimic how the app would behave in production. We can see that currently we have 3 posts, and upon hitting the create post button, and by the way, if you've made it so far into this video, you might want to consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. We see that the page freezes for a bit as the cache has just been purged and we need to fetch fresh content. And remember, we added an artificial 3-second delay to our fetch post function, and then we see all the posts. And when we refresh the page, everything is instant as it's being served from the cache.